Ladies and gentlemen, the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution says this, quote, "No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation." Okay, why do I bring this up? Because Nick Saban has recently been talking and lamenting the state of the name, image, and likeness situation that's going on in college football by saying the following here. He says, quote, "I mean, kids grew up wanting to go to LSU, Alabama, and Georgia. Did they? Got the money now. They don't mind going to Ohio State." Dude, seriously? Okay, I don't like Ohio State, but are you serious? They don't mind going to other places. So that geographic advantage that the Southeast Conference may be changing a little bit now with the different culture, with NIL and the money involved in decision making, I think that's created a bit of an edge for the Big Ten. Homie, I think you probably should have just pleaded the fifth, you boob. Yeah, so talking about Nick Saban is definitely not the point of this video, but I happened to see that story while I was prepping for this video and thought, I really got to touch on that because that's really kind of funny that he skirted the line there. He didn't actually go full self-incrimination, but come on. I mean, really, it's kind of, obvious at this point that NIL is the one factor that changes, and all of a sudden the Big Ten wins back-to-back national championships. And there were already rumors that Ohio State was paying players too, and that's why they won the 2014 one. I'm not saying that's true, and please, for the love of God, do not quote me and then come at me on Twitter because I said something that I can't verify. All right? Whew, don't need that again. But there were rumors. That's all I'm going to say about it. But it doesn't matter now because right now we are concerned, as Michigan fans, about Oklahoma. The Oklahoma Sooners. Michigan plays them tomorrow. I don't know if you heard. 7:30 p.m. It's Michigan's second straight night game. Their first road game of the season. And I'm still kind of bitter that Ohio State-Texas was a noon game. I really think that should have been a night game, but whatever, it is what it is. For this video, I wanted to look at Oklahoma a little bit, and I wanted to give sort of an updated prediction because we gave our predictions on the show Wednesday night. We gave some thoughts and all that. I gave my thoughts. I thought Michigan was going to win. I still think Michigan is going to win. But I have some different reasons for why now. And we'll get to that in just a second. And then obviously it's Friday, so we can't go through Friday without some Feedback Friday, right? Got to go through the comments and see how many people hate me this week. But first, let's get into probably one of the bigger storylines of the game is Juan Barham's suspension. Now, hopefully just showing this 45-second clip doesn't get me, what is the term? Copyright struck. Whatever. Now, on the show, we were talking about this, and some of our less informed Buckeye friends, just saying, we're saying that the Juan Barham ejection was ridiculous. Okay, the ejection was ridiculous, but also wouldn't have been an issue had he not launched. And that started this whole conversation of did Juan Barham launch into John Mateer. How tall even is John Mateer? John Mateer is 6'1". Let's see, how tall is Juan Barham? I have to really enunciate so that I know how to pronounce it. 6'3". Wow, he's not as much taller than not John Mateer. Why am I thinking of John Mateer? I'm thinking of Jack Lane here, New Mexico's quarterback. How tall is Jack Lane? is Jack Lane, QB of New Mexico? And this is important because I made the claim that he didn't launch. Juan Barham didn't launch. He just happens to be about a foot taller than Jack Lane, and apparently he's actually only about an inch taller than Jack Lane. So that point is totally moot anyway. Man, I love it when I make a point and it's destroyed by facts and evidence. All right, so I want to watch this clip real quick and see if Juan Barham launches. So here we go. We got it's going. He's gone. Boom. Just nails the guy. Juan Barham picks up the fumble, which actually wasn't a fumble. I think he was down, if I'm not mistaken. Takes it to the end zone. Here we go. Does he launch? No. And if anything, his feet actually kind of plant into the turf as he leans into Jack Lane. I think the problem was that there was head-to-head contact, period. But let's see, go back here. There's helmet-to-helmet contact. I think it's just the fact that Jack Lane's head kind of snaps back. Now, does it snap back because of targeting? No, it snaps back because it was a nasty freaking tackle. It was a heck of a tackle. This was textbook. And I mean, Juan Barham may only be an inch taller than Jack Lane, but he looks like a monster compared to this little guy here. No offense to Jack Lane. Jack Lane's probably a monster compared to me. So, yeah, he gets called for targeting. He's obviously, look, that was all of us. Literally Saturday night. That was freaking all of us. And there goes Juan Barham. Poor guy. Just so stupid. Juan Barham is going to be riding the bench for the first half against Oklahoma as a result. Now, who takes his place? Cole Sullivan takes his place. And that's okay because Cole Sullivan had the interception against New Mexico, which stopped one of their scoring drives. New Mexico was on a bit of a drive there for a second, and Cole Sullivan put an end to that pretty quick. Well, not pretty quick. They actually made it into the red zone. But he did get a couple of good plays there. He got the interception. So it's kind of interesting because we talked about it on the show, and basically all of us said that Cole Sullivan coming in for Juan Barham, you weren't really going to see much of a fall off. I mean, we already think that Michigan has one of the best linebacker duos in the country. And it also seems like they might have some depth there as well. And Cole Sullivan, got a lot of reps against New Mexico. And what's really cool is that they're going up against an offense that looks a lot like New Mexico, just with better players. So he got some really good snaps and good preparation for this particular game, which is awesome. But let's kind of take a step back and look at this from 30,000 foot view here. So some storylines from the game. We got Blue Bloods collide. This is only the second ever meeting between Michigan and Oklahoma. The first was a 14-6 slugfest in the 1976 Orange Bowl, which ended up crowning Oklahoma national champions. So you're welcome, Sooners. Coaching reunion. Michigan head coach Sharon Moore played offensive line at Oklahoma in the mid-2000s. He returns to Norman not for nostalgia, but to prove his Wolverines are playoff worthy. The quarterback duel between Bryce Underwood and redshirt junior transfer John Mateer, it's going to be awesome. Both of them had electric debuts, but this is their first real test. And I'm going to come back to John Mateer here in a second because there are some things going on with the offensive line that might actually spell some trouble for Oklahoma. But there's also some playoff implications here too. It's week 2, stakes are obviously massive, and a win here could be a resume-defining moment for either team. Now look, if Michigan goes into Oklahoma and beats them, I got them going 12-0. Okay? I mean, barring the fact that Oklahoma is actually just pure trash, and I don't think for a second that they are, I think that Michigan, if they go into Oklahoma and beat them by a touchdown, Michigan is going 12-0 and winning the Big Ten. Sorry, Penn State. Because Michigan at that point is way ahead of schedule. Okay, none of us really expected prior to the season for Michigan to go into Norman, Oklahoma and win this game. I feel like the most objective of Michigan fans said, it's going to be a good game, but Oklahoma's probably going to win. Because how do you, as a true freshman quarterback, Bryce Underwood's got to go into this environment on the road. And I mean, they just joined the SEC, so I'm not going to say it's an SEC environment. No, but it is one of the better Big 12 environments. I mean, Oklahoma is, one of the bigger brands in college football. They obviously have a nutty crowd just like Michigan does, which is awesome for them. The atmosphere is going to be intense. How do you, as a freshman quarterback, overcome that type of thing? And I think that was really the point that all Michigan fans were looking at that said, that's probably why Michigan doesn't win this game. Not from a talent standpoint, not because Sherrone Moore, Wink Martindale, and Chip Lindsey can't scheme something to beat Oklahoma, but simply because how do you, as a rather young team, go into Norman, Oklahoma, and win that game? Now, what it does do is going into Oklahoma sets you up real well for the rest of the season. Because the rest of the season, I don't believe that you're going to play a defense as good as Oklahoma's until you get to Ohio State. And I'm not saying that Ohio State has some fantastic defense, because look, I still think Arch Manning is kind of overrated. And no offense to him. I mean, he got the short end of the stick being born with that last name. Great hair, though. Really nice hair. I'm a little bit jealous. Like, this is basically halfway gone. But he had a bad game. And not all of it was because of Matt Patricia's scheming. Okay, I mean, he had some receivers, and he had time, several times, where he could have gotten the ball to those. I'm going off on a game that's not even going to happen for another 3 months, whatever. Coming back to the point of the video, how does Michigan beat Oklahoma then? Well, it's probably going to be because Michigan's defense holds the line. Okay, so Oklahoma has kind of gone full air raid. I'm going to look at some of their stats here from the Illinois State game. So John Mateer threw for 392 passing yards against Illinois State. He actually broke, what's his name? Baker Mayfield. The guy who planted a flag at Ohio State. Yeah, that guy. And remember that Ohio State didn't say anything about it? No, but Michigan plants a flag and everybody loses their minds. Whatever. He actually broke Bryce Underwood's record for a debut game for an Oklahoma quarterback. I think that's what the record was. Interestingly enough, Bryce Underwood did too for Michigan, so that's kind of cool. Oklahoma ended up with 500 yards. They had 2 turnovers, but only one of which was an interception from John Mateer. I don't think it was a particularly good interception either. Let's see if we can find it maybe. Intercepts John Mateer pass. Yeah, let's see. Maybe it'll play an ad first, which isn't great. Yeah, it does. The interception I don't think was really all that great. Otherwise, I mean, obviously John Mateer played a really good game. They threw the ball 37 times. The one thing that's interesting, though, so Jaden Ott, he is their really good running back for Oklahoma. Let's take a quick look at this interception here. I'm going to leave it kind of small so that we don't get a copyright strike. Yeah, I mean, it was behind the receiver a little bit there. You know, he has to come back to it, kind of make an adjustment. It goes right through his hands. You know, it's not the worst pass ever, but it's definitely something that he needed to, or that I think was on the quarterback. He had time, and it was just a missed throw. But, you know, those things happen, whatever. He's still a really good quarterback. But 392 yards, and what I was going at before was, so Jaden Ott, their star running back, he's a transfer from Cal. He's nursing a shoulder injury right now and had just 1 carry against Illinois State. So his availability is kind of in question right now. Were they saving him for the game against Michigan? Maybe. But if they don't have him for Michigan, then they're going to need to basically throw the ball 40 times again. Now, here's why that might not work, though. Michigan still has a really good defense. Okay, and I understand that the game against New Mexico left some things to be desired, and that's fine. I agree with that. I think the game against New Mexico, I said this on the show, but you take away the trick plays, and that first touchdown doesn't happen. You take away a couple of the penalties on that other drive, and that touchdown doesn't happen. And I say take away those penalties because I think those were on the ref. Like, I don't think those were actual penalties. I think the ref threw a phantom flag there. You take those away then. All of a sudden, the game's 34-3, and it looks a lot more like 2023 than 2024 maybe. Well, whatever. Actually, it wouldn't be 2024 because Michigan wouldn't have scored 30 points. But anyway, so I think that there's still, I think the defense is going to be fine. Basically, long story short, I think the defense is going to be fine. I think even without Juan Barham in the first half, the defense is going to be fine. And I actually think the Juan Barham situation maybe plays into Michigan's advantage because all of a sudden the second half rolls around and they've got their first string defensive linebacker back, and he's got fresh legs. So does that help out Oklahoma's offense at all? No, not even kind of. Especially because they're starting 2 freshman offensive linemen. Let me scroll down my notes here. Here we go. Oklahoma is starting Michael Fasusi at left tackle. He's a former 5-star recruit, so he's good. He's talented for sure. He just doesn't have the experience. He beat out veterans Jacob Sexton and Luke Beklenko. That's a name. How about that? In fall camp. Named to the Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year watch list, Fauci brings elite athleticism and maturity, but this will be his first test against a top-tier Power 4 defensive front. Okay, that's key. You know, Michigan's defensive line, they're still supposed to be one of the better defensive lines in the nation. Okay, we didn't get a ton of pressure against New Mexico, I think, because New Mexico was really good at getting the ball out fast. But also, I mean, you saw what happened when they didn't get the ball out fast. Juan Barham destroyed that guy's life. Ryan Fuji is going to be starting at right guard. He is the highly touted recruit with a strong fall camp showing, listed as a backup to Fabichi Nwawu. I think I pronounced that right, but expected to rotate heavily or start due to injury concerns. So not necessarily because he's ready, but more so because of injury. Coach has praised his physicality, but he's still very raw. So here's what's interesting. You want to take advantage of these freshman linemen, right? How do you do that? Well, you can blitz, but that means that you're leaving a space in the secondary open. And if John Mateer is able to find the open receiver quick and able to make a quick decision, that might not be the best option for you then. So what do you need to do? You need to get pressure with the defensive line. So you need to run, I believe they're called, and this is where my lack of technical football knowledge may hurt me in the comments section once I post this, but this is where you get things like, I believe they're called stunts and twists and things like that involved. Showing a particular front and then backing off of that, you know, showing different looks and confusing the O-lineman. It's going to be a mental game for Oklahoma's O-line, I think. And I think that it's going to be more of a mental game for their O-line than our O-line, because I think that our O-line is actually a little bit better. Now, their defensive line is going to be really good too, but if Michigan can hold on to the ball and run the ball and get, 4 or 5 yards per rush, Michigan can win the time of possession battle, keep John Mateer off the field, and go back to the boa constrictor method of just strangling the life out of teams over the course of 4 quarters and then running away with it late in the fourth quarter. Maybe not running away with it, but just putting the game away, basically. That's kind of how I see this game going. Evan Link needs to step up. He absolutely does. Okay, Blake Frazier, I think, had a good game against New Mexico, but he also needs to step up. Greg Crippen, no, Andrew, who was the guy who got the holding call? Sprague. Andrew Sprague needs to be careful because he got beat a couple of times against New Mexico. So if our O-line holds the line, if you will, and we're able to establish the run game because both of our running backs are healthy and we've got 2 really good ones, then I think Michigan can go back to boa constrictor football. 4, 5 yards a carry. Throw on third down if you really need to. I think you're going to see Bryce Underwood run in this game. He's not going to throw a block. He better not throw a block. But he'll probably run a little bit more in this game. So I do still think that Michigan can win this game. Right now, basically, everybody has it as a toss-up. The line started at Oklahoma by 6.5. It is now moved to Oklahoma by 4.5. The over-under, I mean, it has Michigan, or it has Oklahoma, the FPI rather, has Oklahoma by 53.5%. The over-under is 44.5, so not a terribly high-scoring game. Josh Pate said that he saw this as a trench war, and if that's the case, I think Michigan's O-line is going to be better. But either way, I think that this is a low-scoring game, and frankly, even if Michigan's O-line struggles against Oklahoma's D-line, if Michigan's defense is handling Oklahoma's offense, then all Michigan really needs to do is get as close to the 30-yard line as they can, and Zvada can keep hitting field goals. I mean, we have a special teams, and admittedly, I don't know off the top of my head how Oklahoma's special teams are, but we know at least that we've got a guy who can hit 50-yard field goals with some regularity, which is fantastic, especially if it's a close game and Michigan's got the ball late and they need something. So either way, I think it's going to be an incredible game. It's obviously going to be an incredible atmosphere. I think the game is won by whichever team can establish balance on offense. Now, if John Mateer goes out there and starts slinging the ball around and just tears up Michigan's secondary, and Michigan doesn't have an answer, and frankly, if Michigan can't hang on to the ball, then the game's over at that point. I mean, Oklahoma will I'm not going to say easily, but Oklahoma will win that game. The thing is that I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think that John Mateer is going to put up 250 yards passing. I think that they're going to throw the ball somewhere around 35, 40 times. I think that if they score, it's going to be quick, just not often. But Michigan has to, when Michigan has the ball and they start stringing together drives, they have to finish. They will not have as many opportunities because, well, they'll have the ball quite a bit, but if they keep giving the ball back to Oklahoma and Oklahoma keeps scoring, Michigan's not built to come back. So in my humble opinion, I do think that Michigan has the stronger O-line. I think Michigan's got the stronger D-line. And if it does come down to a trench war, I think Michigan's got the advantage in terms of talent and scheme. Now we just have to see how the players deal with being on the road in Norman, Oklahoma. Now, with all of that being said, we got 22 and a half minutes here. Let's hit up some comments for Feedback Friday. Starting with the train outside my window, which goes choo-choo. That was really stupid. I apologize. Jonathan Osborne, 4920, says, shut up, please. This is why you don't live next to train tracks. If Connor Stalions gave his password to the players to access his scouting information, then would it really have been acquired illegally? I have no idea if that's what Connor Stalions did. If he did that, then I don't know. I don't know how that works. You're taking pictures of somebody's laptop. If you're duplicating the information, actually, what I can say is that with my day job, because friendly reminder, I do this as a side hustle, and I use the ad revenue to pay on my student loans. Okay, so like anyone who thinks that I'm using this to buy a yacht, maybe one day, but certainly not today. What I do know from my full-time job is that, for instance, any proprietary information I have on my work computer, if that gets moved over to my personal computer, that is a data breach, and I can be legally liable for that. I think that's how that would work anyway. Again, I'm not a legal scholar, so I don't know for sure. Let's see. Cliff Richardson, whoever that guy is. I feel like the options in this one are weighted heavily by bias, and I'm here for it. Yeah, that was on this post I did. Where is the... Oh, it's not going to show it, but that's fine. That was a poll I did for Michigan State versus Western Michigan, which reminds me, I need to post a poll for tomorrow for Oklahoma. Blake Frazier, Otis John Jr. says, Blake Frazier needs to be at right tackle. He did a great job, especially on pass protection. He's much more athletic. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought that Michigan's offensive line had a pretty solid game all around. I know that the run game was kind of hit or miss. If you look at the final numbers, Michigan still averaged something like 5 or 6 yards a carry. And yeah, that's, what is the word? Skewed. There we go. That's skewed because of Justice Haynes broke off a couple of 50-yard runs. But also, the offensive line was good enough to give Justice Haynes the ability to break off a couple of 50-yard runs. So, you take what you can get with it, I guess. I still think that they did pretty good. I do. I mean, I don't think... Michigan, I think, went 3-and-out once, I think. But I also think that New Mexico, they just weren't actually ready for the type of fight that they got from New Mexico, because they were incredibly well coached, very well disciplined. And also they were basically a group of 5 team, or a Power 4 team disguised as a group of 5 team, because they had like 75% of the players on that team are all P4 transfers, Power 4 team transfers. Okay, I already did that one. How long is this one? Do I want to get to this one? Oh, man, I've already opened it up, so I should probably look at it. All right, here we go. Matty O72 says, the issue is the NCAA informant obtained for formation in violation of federal laws. If convicted, that would make him a felon. Also, the PI firm that forwarded such information to the NCAA has also committed a felony. Michigan would sue the NCAA in order to obtain full discovery of these illegal acts in order to discredit the NCAA and seek retribution against said illegal informants. Michigan being fined $30 million based upon illegally obtained information is against all due process court situations. The problem is that the NCAA is different from the actual legal system, though. So, and maybe this is what you're trying to get at here. I'll be honest, I don't really know how this is going to work because I'm not a lawyer. If you are a lawyer and you'd like to come on the show and explain this to us at some point when there's a slow news day, then that would be awesome. I would love that. But for right now, I think the idea is that Michigan, the NCAA is not the Justice Department, or the justice system. They have their own rules. So I don't think they necessarily care how the evidence was gathered, even if it was illegal. I think that they just got the evidence and they said, hey, that breaks our rules, so we're going to punish you. And it didn't even really break the rules. SCH Hoffman says, it's time to ignore the NCAA. They can no longer be objective. Harbaugh broke them. I agree with that. Harbaugh did break them. Let's see. Maiko 6338. If this so-called player did what is being alleged, he's not a so-called player. He's a player. I'm just picking on you. That means they have all this info for over the last 2 years. Why hasn't there been any lawsuit filed against this player? But Mish was sitting on this info. I guess I don't know, but my suspicion is that Michigan didn't sue the player because they don't actually know who it was, or they don't have firm evidence of who it was. And actually, they might. From what I understand, there is actually the reflection. You can see the reflection of the player in the picture that he took of Connor Stallion's computer. But also, Ohio State has that state law, FERPA, that basically protects all of their players. I don't know how far that goes. I don't know how far Michigan can go. I know that it could possibly be that Michigan was just focused on the NCAA hearings and whatnot. And now that they've appealed and potentially could sue the NCAA for full discovery here, maybe this info is now going to come out. I don't know. Stephen Wood 3601. They were ineligible, period. You cannot play an ineligible player. Tough luck for the team. That is true. You can't play an ineligible player, can you? That's the point of being ineligible. Can Michigan prove it? And if so, I guess we'll see what happens. But look, I'm not going to hop in the, Ohio State's going to have their natty vacated bandwagon right now because we just don't know what's going to happen. So, whatever. Oh, let's see. Is there anything on... Here we go. Catfish 00150. You're really dumb if you think Michigan didn't cheat. You're really dumb because you have 2 spaces in between your and really. So learn grammar if you're going to insult me. Oh, Gammon Grandpa says, let's stop pretending that Saban was more than a product of paying players under the table pre-NIL. Oh, boy. Yeah, it's, He probably just shouldn't have said anything. He probably just should have left it, because now, and will we ever know for sure if the SEC was paying anybody? I mean, players have come out and said things, but I don't know. I just think it's suspicious that the only thing that changes is the NIL is legal now, and all of a sudden the Big Ten's winning national championships and is favored to win a 3rd in a row with Penn State if they can do it, if James Franklin doesn't James Franklin himself. Ethereal 1 says, y'all are good at this. Been enjoying the content for the past month or so. Keep it up. Excited to watch the channel grow. Wow. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Oh, I did say thank you. Look, there's my comment. Yeah, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Buckeyes Battle Cry. Go subscribe to them. They're really cool Buckeye dudes. Always love hanging out with them. Always a blast with the crew and looking forward to it next week as well. Heck yeah, man. Us too. Good pod fellas from Joe Blue 1977. Appreciate you, Joe. Oh, let's see. Do we have any that are... Let's see here. Season 4 of Harbaugh. B. Doro, Season 4 of Harbaugh versus NCAA is going to be incredible. I totally agree. Wait. I think I talked about that, or I did that comment on a different video, which means I'm basically out of comments. So I'm going to leave it right there. What is your score prediction for Michigan versus Oklahoma? Let me know down in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe, please. I mean, like I said, I'm doing this to try and pay off my student loans, and it doesn't cost you anything but your precious time. So give it to me. All right, we'll catch you in the next video.